All is calm and all is bright everywhere, but in your heart tonight. They're singing carols of joy and peace, but you feel too gone and too far out to reach. Somewhere in your silent night, heaven hears a song your broken heart has cried. Hope is here, just lift your head, for love has come to find you somewhere in your silent night. From heaven's height, from angel low, there is no distance the Prince of Peace won't go. From angel low to Calvary's hill, when your pain runs deep, his love runs deeper still. He has always loved you, child, and he always will. Somewhere in your silent night, heaven hears a song your broken heart has cried. Hope is here, just lift your head, for love has come to find you somewhere in your silent night. Lift your head, lift your heart. Emmanuel will meet you where you are. He knows your hurt, he knows your name, and you're the very reason that he came. Somewhere in your silent night, heaven hears the song your broken heart has cried. Hope is here, just lift your head, for love has come to find you somewhere in your silent night. Love will find you. Love will find you.
Merry Christmas Eve, Tribe Church. You are the medicine, the only cure for everything I feel within, redeeming what was lost and all that could have been. Oh, this is a healing kind of love. You are the truest friend, staying through the night when I was at my end, and comforting my heart till it was light again. I know Oh, this is a faithful kind of love. Yes, it is. An everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Emmanuel, God with us, you're here with me. Wonderful Counselor, the government is resting on your shoulders. You are the final word, and you alone decide when every page will turn. So I will trust your timing, I will rest secure. I know this is a steady kind of love. An everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Emmanuel, God with us, you're here with me. Wonderful Counselor, the government is resting on your shoulders. Sing it out, oh, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Emmanuel, God with us, you're here with me. Wonderful Counselor, the government is resting on your shoulders. Oh, your shoulders. Yeah. You're the name above all names. Bread of life. You're the bread of life. Your name, say it, all they say it, all I stand in awe of you. Your name, say it, all they say it, all I stand in awe of you. Oh, your name, say it, all they say it, all I stand in awe of you. Your name, say it, all they say it, all I stand in awe of you. Your name, say it, all they say it, all I stand in awe of you. Sing your name, say it, all they say it, all I stand in awe of you. Your name, say it, all they say it, all I stand in awe of you. Stand in awe of who you are. Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Emmanuel, God with us, you're here, right here with me. Wonderful Counselor, the government is resting on your shoulder. Sing it one more time. Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Emmanuel, God with us, you're here with me. Wonderful Counselor, the government is resting on your shoulders. On your shoulders. The herald angels sing glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, pardon sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies, and with angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. And hark, the angels sing. And hark, the angels sing. Glory to the newborn King. Christ the highest, heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Late in time, behold him come, an offspring of a virgin's womb. Veiled in flesh, the Godhead seen. Hail the incarnate deity, and placed as a man with the man to dwell. Jesus our Emmanuel. And hark, the angels sing. Hark, the angels sing. Glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace. Hail the Son of righteousness, and light and life to all he brings. Risen with healing in his wings. Mighty lays his glory by, born that the men no more may die, and born to raise the sons of earth, born to give and second birth. excuse me for just one moment. I left something at the side of the stage there. Just one moment. I don't typically bring my phone up with me, so I just happened to forget it. I'm sorry. I've been reading a book that talks about how the lights that we put up for Christmas they represent that He is the light of the world. And I don't think I've ever heard that before. You just put them up because they're pretty and they're twinkly. And so the lights have become so breathtakingly beautiful this season. To know that that's why we do that. And the same is for why we give a gift, because we were given the ultimate gift. And so, just a moment, we are going to take the Lord's Supper. I dove a little bit, very deeply into it, so I won't do all that. But I spent a long time taking the bread and the cup in fear. And I know I'm not worthy. But I want you to imagine this morning that Jesus is handing you the bread and the cup, because that's ultimately what He did on the cross, for that personal relationship with you. So if you'll just imagine that that's what He's doing this morning, we're going to go ahead and take the communion, and you just want to peel off that very, very top layer. It's clear, not the silver one. Like to read from Matthew 26 through 28. Now as they were eating, Jesus took bread, and after blessing it, He broke it, and He gave it to the disciples, and He said, "Take, eat, this is my body." He's standing before you, and He's handing it to you. There's no fear. Take it, eat it, hurry up. Why wouldn't you want to? But take, eat, this is my body. So when you're ready, you can go ahead and take the bread that represents His broken body on the cross. The verse goes on to say, and He took the cup, and when He had given thanks, He gave it to them, saying, "Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." Ready, you can go ahead and take the cup that represents the blood of Christ, His life for yours.
This is what we call a hard transition, because I'm here to give you announcements. So that's fun. So if you remember, last week was Give Light Sunday. So it's the time every year where we pay off people's light bills who are about to have their electricity turned off on Christmas. And we were a little worried this year, but y'all came through. We actually reached exactly what we did last year. And then I called, and I talked to Hendricks Power, and they said, well, we have a lot more people on Disconnect this year. It's a tough year. And she said, and unfortunately, it's just not going to go as far. And I was like, I'm a little bummed because we've paid off everybody for the last 2 years. And she goes, well, but the truth is that over 90 families are going to have power on Christmas because Tribe does this once a year. And regardless of the past years, that is our highest total ever. So we're so excited to be able to do that. And we know that so many people are going to remember the light of the world on Christmas Day because their lights are still on. So we're grateful for that opportunity. Also, we have ornaments that have been made. They're right over here, especially if you haven't had one yet. Make sure it's one per family. You don't need 7 of them on your tree. What's that? Take all 3. Sorry. I thought they knew that. Yeah, take all 3. Yes. They're smart people. Also, next Sunday, speaking of smart, please don't show up here because next Sunday is Sabbath Sunday, which means it's the one time a year we all take a break. We take a rest, including our volunteers and all of you. So you are welcome to show up, but the doors will be locked, and there won't be a lot going on or anything at all. Also coming up in January is what we do every single year, which is our 21 days of prayer and fasting, and you'll find out more information as we lead into January, what that looks like, but it's an exciting time where we are intentionally start our year off by giving to God a time of prayer and fasting every single year just to start our year off right. We do that. All right, why don't you take 30 seconds and greet someone around you and say thanks to Rudolph for guiding you through the fog this morning.
Good morning, Tribe Church. My name is Pastor Carrie, and it is my absolute honor to bring you this Christmas message. So if you've been around Tribe for any length of time, you know that one of our favorite things to do is tell the story of how Tribe became Tribe. I just never want to stop talking about how hard we fought to get to you. And our word of the year going into 2024 is home. 119 North Vine has become home for a lot of us, but it wasn't always our home. We started off as a portable church rolling in and out of the AMC Theater over at Perry Crossing. We did that for about 18 months, and then COVID hit, and all of a sudden we went from being together each week to being online all the time. It was sort of an open secret that AMC was not performing very well. And we knew that even outside of COVID, we might need to find a new place to meet. So we started looking for places to rent, and we stood in this room across from a realtor and said, it needs a lot of work. It is definitely not ideal. We don't have a lot of choices right now, so we'll make it work. And on May 1st, 2020, we started working on 119 North Vine with a soft launch planned for Father's Day, June 21st. We got it all ready. We did it. We even had a practice service in here. And on June 18th, 2020, just 3 days before we were supposed to have our soft launch, I was teaching swimming lessons in our pool when Matt came outside with a really bad look on his face. And he explained to me that the town had come in and said that we couldn't start meeting. They had a long list of things that we couldn't afford that would need to be cleared up before we would be granted what's called an occupancy permit. In his book, Hidden Christmas, Pastor Timothy Keller states, if you live like Jesus, there won't be room for you in a lot of inns. You'll hit roadblock after roadblock put in your path. Things that should be simple will become complicated, and you will encounter conflicts that you could never imagine, that require solutions you could not fathom, that don't seem possible. But God showed up. And our people showed up. And bit by bit, we started ticking things off that impossible list. And after 33 Sundays online, on November 1st, 2020, we were able to gather together again in person. And I can't even describe to you what it was like after all that time to have our people here with us. I heard a pastor say one time that the presence of God allows his children to breathe. Having our people gathered together in one place here with us, I think I let out a breath that I had been holding since March. After watching and waiting for months and weeks, you were finally here. You were here with us. And as we've headed into this Christmas season, the idea of Christ being here with us has struck me like it never has before. I've thought about it every single day. What it means to be fully present in each moment, how the presence of God, the light of the world, here on earth with us, is such an important part of the Christmas story. The Old Testament contains many prophecies and portents about Jesus. And if you're like, what's a portent? I'll tell you. A prophecy is a prediction that is made under divine inspiration. A portent is something that foreshadows a coming event. So all portents are also prophecies, but not all prophecies are portents. Here's an example of a verse that's both a prophecy and a portent. Then Isaiah said, "Hear now, you house of David. Is it not enough to try the patience of men? Will you try the patience of my God also? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel." When Isaiah made this prophecy, it came true about 14 later, but what made it a portent, a foreshadowing of future events, came much later and were much more miraculous than that original prophecy that came true 14 years later. Isaiah prophesied that a woman who was currently a virgin would later conceive the old-fashioned way. And when this prophecy comes true, when the portent comes true, Mary is a virgin at the time of conception. The child from Isaiah's prophecy was a sign that God was still with the kingdom of Judea, even though there was a lot of bad stuff that was happening. And Jesus was literally God with us. When God fulfilled Isaiah's portent, what came later was much richer, fuller, and more miraculous than the initial prophecy. And this particular prophecy turned portent helps us to understand why the name Emmanuel is used in Isaiah 7:14. Because Emmanuel means God with us, God here with us. And Emmanuel is just one of the many names that's used to describe Jesus. The use of the name Emmanuel is so significant because it tells us three things about Jesus right off the bat. It tells us that he is fully God, it tells us that he is fully man, and that he is here with us. Not just a sign that God is with us, but that he is literally, physically here with us. Isaiah has more famous prophecies about Jesus. For unto us a child is born, a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. That's in Isaiah 9:6. And then in Isaiah 53, he says, he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought peace was upon him. And again, all the way back in chapter 7, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will be with child and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. Something that I realized as I was preparing for this Christmas Eve message was that the prophecies in Isaiah, they build and they grow throughout the book. God doesn't unleash the whole plan at once. It's bit by bit that we get the whole story, the whole prophecy, the whole portent. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow writes in his poem, Retribution, though the mills of God grind slowly, they grind exceedingly fine. I love the metaphor of a mill for God's timing. You can think of a pepper mill or a flour mill, just anything that sort of grinds things, anything that takes something that's bigger and grinds it down into something smaller. It takes a lot of time and effort to turn wheat into flour or cinnamon sticks into cinnamon. It's loud and it's exhausting to do by hand, especially finely ground. You have to crush and press, sometimes more than once. It's a slow and careful process. Though the mills of God grind slowly, they grind exceedingly fine. God isn't afraid to wait for just the right moment if it means that the end result will be perfect. Paul says in his letter to the Galatians, when the set time had fully come, God sent his son, born of a woman, that we might receive adoption to sonship. When the set time had fully come, when the world was just right, when God knew he could get the world's undivided attention, when we got to a place in history where this story would not be forgotten, wouldn't slip through the cracks of history, that it would be passed down and recorded so that it wasn't lost to the millions of pages of history. Though the mills of God grind slowly, they grind exceedingly fine. When the set time had fully come, 700 years pass between Isaiah's life and prophecy about the birth of Jesus and the actual birth of Jesus. 700 years of good days and bad days, 700 years of long days and short days, holidays and normal days, births and deaths and births. Generations came and went, waiting and wondering. Though the mills of God grind slowly, they grind exceedingly fine. 700 years. Maybe you're here today and it seems like God has forgotten. Maybe it seems like God has gone silent. Maybe God seems to have abandoned you. Those mills are grinding too slowly for your liking, and I get it because I am exactly the same way. But God is in the process of arranging all of those little pieces that have to come together so that when the set time fully comes, the world is ready and you are ready. Isaiah gives us the first glimpse of what's to come when he says, therefore the Lord will give you a sign, the virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and you will call him Emmanuel. And most of us get to the end of verse 14 and we just stop reading. And that's because verse 15 is so weird. You're not going to see it on a Christmas card. This is it. It says, he will eat curds and honey when he knows enough to reject the right from the wrong. You're not going to see that on a Christmas card, just like a teenager eating curds and honey. He will eat curds and honey when he's old enough to reject right from wrong. You thought your teenagers ate weird stuff, curds and honey. And the funny thing is, that's not all Isaiah has to say about curds and honey, because just a few verses later, he says, and because of the abundance of milk that they give, he will have curds to eat, and all who remain in the land will have curds and honey. What does that mean? What is that all for? That's so strange. What is this whole curds and honey thing about? Why does it immediately follow Isaiah's first prophecy about Christ? And what does any of this have to do with Christmas? And the reality is that scholars aren't sure. So here's what I know. The ancient Jewish people eventually lived in the Promised Land, a land said to be flowing with milk and honey. And milk and honey is pretty simple. To make it, you just take some milk and you add honey into it, and then you have milk and honey. That part can be completed in one day. You can milk whatever animal you want to milk, and then just add some honey in it. But curds take time. There's crushing and pressing involved. There's a preparing that has to occur. Curds come from the same place as milk, but there is more of a process involved in their creation. The milk has to sour. The curds have to be extracted from the milk. Curds are more complicated than milk. It's important. What we have is good, but what is coming is so much better. And I'd be lying if when I was preparing this message, I didn't try eating some curds and honey. And it turns out it's delicious. If you have time today, go pick some up and you can have it for Christmas tomorrow. Milk and honey, what the Jesus people were promised before, was good, but curds and honey is delicious. It's a delicacy. In Isaiah's time, curds and honey would have been eaten by royalty. The curds and honey tell us that what is coming is going to be both the same and totally different, better, richer, and more complex. And that's what Jesus was to the people of his time. That's what Jesus is still here to us today. He's Emmanuel. He's God with us. And it was through Jesus that human beings could finally experience the full presence of God. Jesus was the opportunity to experience God in a completely new, more intimate, a better way. Because Jesus wasn't just fully God. He was also fully man. He knew that we could never climb up to him, so he came down to us. He was fully man. Jesus came to take away that barrier that existed between God and his people. John puts it like this: the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. The Word, the Hebrew Bible, all of the things that had been written about who God was, what God liked, who God liked, the Word became flesh, became a living, breathing human being. Of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, John was probably the last Gospel that was written. He would have had time to pore over the promises, portents, and prophecies written about Jesus 700 years or more before his birth. He would have had time to cross-reference them with both his own experiences and the experiences of Jesus' mother, Mary. Because John and Mary, they were tight. Well, even while Jesus was on the cross, he locks eyes with John and Mary, and he says this. He said to her, "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple, he said, "Here is your mother." I know, baby girl. From that time on, the disciple took her into his home. The woman who held Jesus' tiny little baby hands, the woman who delivered him for a second time when they were at the wedding in Cana, and Jesus is like, "It's not my time, I'm not ready." And she just looks at the servants. She says, "Do whatever he tells you." That confidence that she had in her son. I love the faith of Mary because she is the perfect example of what our response to faith can look like. Because Mary's faith doesn't come all at once. It comes in stages. It comes bit by bit. When the angel tells her, "You are going to give birth to the Son of God," Mary doesn't respond with "Bet, let's go." That's not her response. Luke tells us that she was greatly troubled. Yeah, I've not even conceived the old-fashioned way. Now I'm expected to birth something? Are you serious? Her immediate response is, "How can this be? I am a virgin." The angel explains the process to Mary, and Mary's response is so beautiful. She says, "I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled." That is not a yes. This doesn't make any sense to me, but my mind and my hands are open to whatever you want to give me. And maybe you're here today and you're a little bit like Mary. Everything that you're hearing sounds a little bit weird. Maybe it sounds too good to be true. Maybe you're just not the kind of person who jumps into the pool all at once. Maybe you have to stick a toe or two in first. Because sometimes our faith doesn't come all at once. I would even say often our faith doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it comes bit by bit, like Mary's. Later in her pregnancy, Mary goes to see her relative Elizabeth, who is pregnant, even though she is way too old to be pregnant. She's like me. She's actually pregnant with John the Baptist, and Elizabeth looks at Mary and she confirms some things in Mary that she couldn't possibly know unless she had been given divine knowledge, which she had. She tells Mary that the baby in her womb leaped at the sight of her. She says that she knows that Mary is carrying the Messianic child, the Son of God. And hearing this gives Mary the confidence in what she was told by the angel, and it allows her to take a deeper step into her faith. Experiencing these things with Elizabeth moves Mary's faith from her intellect to her whole self, and she cries out, "My soul glorifies the Lord, my spirit rejoices." She responds in wonder, in mind, body, and spirit. She responds in astonishment at the things that she could never accomplish on her own, made only possible through God. When was the last time that something took your breath away in astonishment? When was the last time that you looked around in complete awe and wonder? I think we've lost some of that astonishment, and in doing so, we've lost some of our theological grounding. It's the theological grounding that acknowledges that God is our creator and that we do not have the knowledge or the power or the right to tell him what to do, that we are not in control. It's the theological grounding that allows us to let go of that need to control everything and everyone around us. It's the theological grounding that allows us to say, "I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled." And when we start to think that we are standing on our own 2 feet of our own accord, I think that's when things start to get dangerous. When we think that everything around us happens by the power of our own 2 hands, I think that's when we think that we have all of the power, that's when we start to lose our ability to wonder, to be astonished. If you're here tonight and you just can't find the magic of Christmas anymore, if you can't remember the last time that something took your breath away, maybe it is time to open your hands and say, "I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled." And hold your hands open for whatever God has for you. Into Mary's open hands, God placed a baby, the Son of God, born of a virgin. John describes the scene like this. He says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." It's a retrospective. It's written from a bird's eye view. John wrote his gospel with an agenda. His whole goal in writing is that his reader would be able to arrive at the same conclusion that he had. John, who wrote his gospel down as his own clock was about to run out. John, who had time to cross-reference all of the things about Jesus that had been written with him with the things that actually happened to him. He uses the words us and we here. Those are subject and object pronouns that include both the self and others. He made his dwelling among us, between me and others, but I was there. And we have seen his glory between me, and others have seen it, but I was there. John, who knew what we would call the Old Testament. In his time, it was called the Hebrew Bible. He knew it from his time in Hebrew school. John, who would step away from his life as a fisherman. John, who was there, who saw it all, who saw the signs and the wonders. John, who was called to care for Jesus' mother, who had time to reflect, who had time to connect the dots, came to the conclusion that the Word became flesh. All the words that had been written, all the promises and prophecies became flesh. They became a living, breathing baby born of a virgin who grew up to eat curds and honey. The one called Emmanuel. Emmanuel, God with us, God here with us. The whole point of Jesus was that he was God in a body who came to earth so that we would never, ever have to wonder how God felt about us. And ironically, it wasn't until his time on earth was over that the full weight of his message was able to sink in with his followers. Jesus' time on earth is a little bit like the prophecies in Isaiah. It's a little bit like Mary's faith. It isn't revealed all at once. It's bit by bit. Though the mills of God grind slowly, they grind exceedingly fine. It wasn't until his death, burial, and resurrection that his followers understood what he had been saying all along. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And the second one is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no greater commandment than these. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. These are the words of a man whose birth was foretold and foreshadowed 700 years before it occurred. The virgin will give birth, and 700 years later, an angel comes to Mary and tells her that she's going to have a baby. How can this be? She replies, for I am a virgin. He will eat curds and honey, the food of royalty. And then he says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. His name will be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. God here with us. At the very end of his time on earth, before his ascension into heaven, Matthew records his great commission. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth have been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. Emmanuel, God with us. God here with us. Us, the object pronoun that includes the self, that includes me, and includes you. Emmanuel, he was fully God. Emmanuel, he was fully man. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. He made his home here with us. He was all in with us. He wasn't half here and half in heaven. He was fully all in. He lived among us. This is so intimate and so astonishing. What kind of creator would do this? And because of what we learn in that verse, he is still here with us. And I don't think this stuns us as much as it should. The creator of the world came down and scrunched himself into a baby body, lived among us, said radical things about the Father, died for our sins so that we could be forgiven. This should take our breath away every single day. But maybe the most astonishing thing is that when Jesus ascended into heaven, to be reunited with the Father, he left his Holy Spirit, the third part of the Trinity, here with us to guide us, to direct us, to be here with us, not just at Christmas, but 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have the Holy Spirit here with us, which means that he is here. He's right here. He's in this room. He's in your heart. And he is near, nearer than breath or heartbeat, nearer than you are to you, closer than second chance or next opportunity closer than tonight or yesterday. And he is real. He's more real than touch, see, hear, smell, or taste. He's more real than reality. He is our reality. More real than joy, pain, sorrow, or the love of being in love. And he is present like space, wind, time, silence, night. And he is waiting like creation, like words on the tip of tongue, like songs that have yet to be sung. He is beauty. In oranges and blues, every hue, every shade, sunset and sunrise whisper his name. He is holy. Cannot be touched, explained, like sweet seconds of prayer, like grandmother on knees, wood floor bare. He is old hymns and the extending of limbs, stretched across trees, stripes that can heal disease, because he is Son and Father and Spirit, distinctly three and distinctly one. The only one, the only wise, the only resurrector of lives. He is King. And no earthly throne can house him. No amount of elegant words can espouse him. He is moments and voice, power of choice in word, in deed, in fruit, in seed, nailed hands and nailed feet, innocent wounds that bleed. He is believe. He is all. He is the call and the purpose, everything that we can sacrifice. He's worth it and more, much more. Our good deeds are mere pennies. We will never even the score. He is behold and wow. He is the who, what, when, why, and how. And he is the one who puts on the show. He is the one that we come to see. He is the soul's cry and the sinner's plea. He is the epitome that no one could light a candle to or come within a 1,000,000-foot pole of. He is above. He is a father's love, maker of ways of earth and wind, ancient of days. He has no fear, so we can have no fear. Because our God, the light of the world, is here. Give that to your dad. Light him in.
Holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep. Sleep in heavenly peace. We're going to sing that again. Let's all sing it out together. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin. If you'll go ahead and blow out your candles.
Everybody's waiting the whole year long, counting down those days until Christmas comes. The chill is on the breeze, and the family's all in town. The lights are on the trees, and it won't be too long now. Feels like joy to the world, feels like snow in the air. Feels like choirs singing, church bells ringing, hope is everywhere. Jesus Christ has come, and one thing is clear. Between the tiny little baby and all my friends and family, it's the best time of the year. Feels like joy, feels like joy. Love is shining, making everything seem bright. Happiness bringing, carolers singing, silent night. So let's make a memory we can cherish through the years. It's most wonderful time, and the time is finally here. Feels like joy to the world, feels like snow in the air. Feels like choirs singing, church bells ringing, hope is everywhere. Jesus Christ has come, and one thing is clear. Between the tiny little baby and all my friends and family, it's the best time of the year. Feels like joy. A chill is on the breeze, and the family's all in town. The lights are on the tree, and it won't be too long now. Feels like joy to the world, feels like snow in the air. Feels like choirs singing, church bells ringing, hope is everywhere. Jesus Christ has come, and one thing is clear. Between the tiny little baby and all my friends and family, it's the best time of the year. Feels like joy. Oh, it feels like joy. Feels like joy.
As you go out into your day, Merry Christmas Eve and Merry Christmas tomorrow to you and yours. And remember always that love is the best thing we do.